So this is my dynamic warm-up, follow along with routine. What you want to do in this first stretch is think about getting that hip nice and high and putting it nice and deep to that chest. Every step you take, you pull that a bit deeper. This is going to be your activation phase of the warm-up. Think about driving that knee high. So now after activating them hip flexors, we're now going to elevate. So what you're going to do, you're going to think about driving them knees as high to the chest as possible, keeping them ankles in dorsiflexion, thinking about getting as many steps in as possible in that distance. Do it with speed and intent. Then from here, we're going to move on to the quadricep. You're going to get a nice stretch, pull that quad nice and tight to the bum. And with every pull, you're going to think about driving that hip flexor forward. If you can balance well, don't push your arm out. But if you can't balance and you're struggling for stability, push that arm out forward so you can be nice and stable in this stretch. Each time you do it, you're pushing that hip nice and far forward so you're getting deeper and deeper in that stretch with every step you take. Now from here, same principle, you're going to elevate again. You're going to think about driving them heels nice and tight to the bum with as much intent as possible. Really producing speed and working them hamstrings to get them nice and warm. From here, we're going to move on to a figure of 8. I want you to really externally rotate that hip. Try not to cave that chest forward. Try and really keep that chest as tall as possible. Really try and open that hip to get that distance and get that hip as close, that foot, as close to the chest as possible. Each step you take, you're pulling that a bit deeper, really trying to open it up as much as possible, nice and stable on that foot. Now from here, you're going to try and open up that hamstring. You're going to lift that foot nice and high, keeping it as straight as possible, driving that hand towards the toes. If you can't reach your toes, then don't worry too much. Just really try and focus on keeping that foot and hamstring nice and straight. I don't want bent knees throughout this exercise. Really try and open it up as much as possible. From there, you're going to go into a forward lunge with a lean over to the side. If you can, try and be stable on that foot and don't let the knee touch the ground. As you can see here, I was struggling for stability this day, but over time, you want to really try and keep that knee off the ground. Then you're going to go into a backwards lunge. You want the hands alternating and you really want to explode through with every step. You want to make sure you're pushing off that front foot. Next thing, you're going to go into lateral lunge. As you take every step, you're going to shift once to the right, once to the left, and you're going to push that bum as deep as you can, really trying to open up them hips. As you take every step, you're actually getting deeper and deeper every single time. After this, you're going to go into your lateral shuffle. With this, you want to try and keep this bum in line with the knee joint as much as possible, keeping that chest tall, taking a step with the right foot before the left. Always driving forward, working nice and tight. You're going to go 10 yards to the right, then 10 yards to the left. As I said before, the main cue in this exercise is really trying to keep that bum in line with the knee as much as possible. As you can see, mine is not perfect, but it don't need to be situated exactly in line, but you need to think about keeping that nice and low, working on that lateral shuffle position. From here, you're going to go into 10 bodyweight squats. Preferably, I'd rather you have your toes pointing forward and you actually driving the knees over the toes. As you can see, my toes are pointing out a bit. That's not too bad, but preferably I'd like you to actually try and really work on that knees over toe position with this squat. Think about sitting that bum in between the hips and think about driving them knees over the toes and keeping that chest as tall as possible, really working on that mobility. From here, you're going to go into a single leg squat. The main idea with this is you don't want to hinge too much and push the bum back. You actually want to think about the same cue of pushing that knee over the toe and really getting a nice stretch. As you can see, I'm hinging forward a bit, but I want you to minimize that as much as possible. Really try and focus on not reaching down with the chest, but actually pushing the knee over the toe and squatting down as deep as possible. You're going to try and drive them hands towards the ankle and just reach as low as possible. If you can't reach the foot, then it's fine, but over time, you're going to improve that mobility as much as possible. Then from here, you're going to go from heel to calf raise. So you're going to start off with your ankle in dorsiflexion, place that foot down. Then you're going to go into a calf raise on that foot. You're going to think about this in every single step you take, trying to push as tall as possible and drive them toes as much to the knee as possible. Now what you're going to do, you're going to have your toes pointing upwards towards the knee and you're going to keep it in that position for every step, trying to stretch out that tibialis. Don't think about covering a lot of distance with every step. Keep it nice and short, nice and compact, really working that tibia for the whole process. Then I want you to get on the floor. We're going to do our 4-way hip activation. So you're going to start off nice and slow, isolating that hip flexor, keeping both arms locked out. And you're going to think about trying to not let the back rotate. You're going to open up each hip, and then you're going to add a dynamic one with speed and intent in the end. So you're going to do 4 nice and slow, then you go into 4 with speed. As I said before, the main cue is imagine you've got a drink on your back and you're balancing that not to let it spill. You want to really isolate the hip flexor. After you've done it with your knees tucked in, you're now going to bring that foot out and lengthen it. But you're going to use the exact same coaching cues. You're lifting without letting that back rotate, and you're really isolating that hip. You're going to do 4 with 4 slow, then 4 with speed, and then you're going to do 4 on each exercise. Then from here, you're going to bring your back foot out as long as possible, driving them toes towards your eyes, and you're going to lift and isolate that glute. The main cue I want you to think of is not overextending. A lot of people bring their heel higher than their head. Your heel doesn't need to go higher than your head. You just need to think about minimalizing that range of motion, but really isolating that glute. So same principle, 4 nice and slow, then 4 with speed on each leg. Now from here, you're going to lie on your side with one hand on your hip, and you're going to just open up that hip as tall as possible. You're going to do 4 again on each side, and you're going to do 4 slow, 4 with speed. Try not to let your back raise off the ground. Try and really keep yourself pinned into the floor, and really try and make sure you're only moving that hip flexor. Nothing else should be working at this time. Don't let the bum hinge back. Try and keep the bum in line with the back as best as possible as well. Then from here, you're going to bring that foot over, and now you're going to work the adductor. You're going to pull it in nice and tight, do 4 again on each side. Now from here, you're going to move onto your back. You're going to have one knee bent and one leg straight, having them toes pointing towards the eye. You're going to raise that leg, working that hamstring. Try not to let that bum raise off the floor like you can see here. Really focus on keeping that pinned into the ground and really isolating that hamstring. Same principle as every exercise. 4 quick, 4 slow. Try and really raise that hamstring. Don't let that knee bend. Keep it straight as possible. Drive them toes towards the eyes. A lot of people, when I see them do it, they always bend the knee. So they're not working that hamstring to maximal range of motion. Last 2 stretches now. You're going to work that hamstring up. Then you're going to reach out to the side, keeping both shoulders pinned on the floor. Do not let any of your shoulders raise off the ground. If the foot doesn't reach the floor, that's fine. As you can see in my last rep, it didn't reach the floor. There, my shoulder come off. I want you to really resist against that. Try and keep it as much pinned to the ground as possible. After doing 4 on each side, you're going to roll onto your back, and you're going to use the same principle. Shoulders pinned to the ground, reach over, stretch as far as possible. Try and get that heel in line with the hip. If you can't, then obviously you can reach lower. If you can't keep the shoulders pinned down, I don't expect it to be perfect, but really try and focus on that main cue. Same principle as before, and then I want 4 on each side. So the main purpose of that warm-up is to make sure you're fully prepared. All your limbs are activated and you've increased blood flow so you can go into your actual workout. Don't neglect this side of training, and make sure you focus on it, because the last thing you want to do is go into your session and have your body not fully prepared.